The deception. The Galactic Unity assembly floated in the darkness between stars, a massive structure of crystalline towers and metallic rings that had witnessed 10,000 years of interstellar politics. Inside its grand chamber, representatives from 843 species gathered beneath a dome that displayed the swirling colors of nearby nebulae. The air hummed with translation devices converting thousands of languages into coherent meaning. Ambassador Theron Vass stood at the central podium, his towering form casting long shadows across the marble floor. The Krellian was an imposing figure, nearly 3 meters tall with scales that shimmered like liquid copper. His 6 eyes surveyed the assembly with barely concealed contempt as he addressed the matter at hand. "We gather once again to consider Earth's petition for full council membership," Theron announced, his voice carrying the weight of authority that came from representing one of the galaxy's 3 dominant powers. "This marks their 9th request in 70 standard cycles. Perhaps we should consider this matter closed permanently." Laughter rippled through the assembly. The sound came in many forms, chittering, rumbling, melodic tones, but the meaning was universal. Earth was a joke to these ancient civilizations. Director Marcus Webb sat in the petitioner's gallery, his weathered face showing no emotion. At 62 years old, with gray hair and steady blue eyes, he had learned to wear a mask of humility during these sessions. Beside him sat Admiral Helena Cross, her military uniform deliberately simple and unadorned, and Dr. Samuel Chen, whose scientific credentials were impressive by human standards but laughable to species that had been exploring quantum mechanics for millennia. "The humans persist in their delusion of relevance," continued a delegate from the Membrane Consortium, its translucent body pulsing with amused colors. "Their ships barely exceed light speed. Their weapons technology is primitive. They have colonized only 12 worlds in 3 centuries. What could they possibly contribute to this assembly?" Marcus rose slowly from his seat, requesting permission to speak. The gallery fell into an expectant hush. Even the mockery had become routine, a predictable entertainment for the assembled powers. "Honored representatives," Marcus began, his voice calm and measured. "Earth acknowledges our limitations. We are young by galactic standards. Our technology develops slowly. But we believe that diversity of perspective strengthens any assembly. We ask only for the opportunity to learn from your wisdom and contribute what little we can to the common good." The humility in his words was perfect, practiced over decades. It was exactly what the council expected to hear. Theron Vass's scales rippled with satisfaction. "Your petition is noted and denied as expected. Perhaps in another century, when humanity has achieved something noteworthy, we will reconsider. Until then, focus on your primitive colonies and leave galactic affairs to those capable of handling them." The vote was unanimous. 843 species agreed that Earth remained unworthy of membership. Marcus bowed respectfully, thanked the assembly for their time, and departed with his companions. Not a single representative noticed the slight smile that crossed Admiral Cross's face as they left. The human delegation's ship was a modest vessel by council standards, barely 200 meters long with engines that council engineers considered outdated by several centuries. It departed the assembly structure without fanfare, just another rejected petition from an insignificant species. But once they entered hyperspace and their secure communication systems activated, the atmosphere inside the ship changed dramatically. "Another successful performance," Admiral Helena Cross said, allowing herself a genuine smile. She was 58 years old, with close-cropped black hair and the bearing of someone who had commanded military operations her entire adult life. "Theron's arrogance grows with each rejection." Marcus nodded, pulling up a holographic display that showed far more sophisticated technology than their ship's exterior suggested. "The Council's intelligence services are getting lazy. They barely scanned us this time. They've convinced themselves we're harmless." Dr. Samuel Chen leaned forward, his excitement barely contained. "Which means Operation Silent Guardian remains undetected. The Kuiper Belt shipyards report 97% completion. The Leviathan will be ready for deployment within 6 weeks." The 3 humans shared a moment of profound satisfaction. For 250 years, humanity had been playing the greatest deception in galactic history. When Earth had first developed faster-than-light travel and encountered the Galactic Unity Assembly, humanity's leaders had faced a choice. They could reveal their true capabilities and risk the fate of dozens of species that had grown too powerful too quickly, absorption, subjugation, or mysterious disappearance from galactic records. Or they could hide their strength and grow in secret. They had chosen deception. The Council believed humanity possessed perhaps 50 combat-capable ships. The truth was closer to 4,000, each one hidden in facilities that Council sensors could never detect. They believed Earth's population was confined to the Sol system and 12 modest colonies. In reality, humanity had established 147 hidden settlements across the galaxy, connected by quantum communication networks that operated on principles the Council considered theoretical impossibilities. And deep in the Kuiper Belt, in a massive hollowed asteroid that had been converted into the most advanced shipyard in known space, humanity had built something that would change the balance of galactic power forever. The Leviathan. "Show me the latest status report," Marcus commanded. The holographic display expanded, showing a vessel that defied every principle of ship design the Council had established over millennia. The Leviathan stretched 78 kilometers from bow to stern, making it 3 times larger than the biggest ship in the Council's fleet. Its hull was composed of metamaterials that could shift between solid, liquid, and plasma states depending on combat requirements. Its engines drew power from controlled microsingularities, generating energy outputs that should have been physically impossible. But it was the weapon systems that truly set the Leviathan apart. "The quantum phase cannons are operating at 102% efficiency," Dr. Chin reported, his scientific mind still marveling at what humanity had achieved. "We can fire projectiles that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. No shield technology in the Council's arsenal can stop them." "And the graviton beam arrays?" Helena asked. "Fully operational. We can manipulate spacetime itself within a radius of 5 million kilometers. Any ship caught in the beam experiences time dilation that effectively freezes it in normal space while we move at our leisure." Marcus studied the specifications with professional appreciation. Humanity had taken 2.5 centuries to build this capability, investing resources that would have bankrupted any single nation on old Earth. But the project had been worth every credit, every sacrifice, every year of patient deception. "The Neuralink fighter system?" he asked. Helena's smile widened. 5,000 autonomous combat drones, each one capable of independent action while remaining connected to a central tactical intelligence. "Our pilots can control entire squadrons through direct neural interface. Response times measured in microseconds. The Council's fighters take full seconds to react to tactical changes." "They'll never see it coming," Dr. Chin whispered. But before anyone could respond, an urgent alert flashed across their displays. It came from the deep space monitoring network that humanity had secretly deployed throughout the galaxy, another technology the Council didn't know existed. Admiral Cross pulled up the data, and her expression immediately darkened. "We're detecting massive energy signatures at the galactic rim. Sector 97 Alpha. That's near the Talaxian frontier worlds," Marcus noted. "What kind of signatures?" "Unknown configuration. Power levels exceed anything in our databases. Multiple contacts, moving in coordinated patterns." Helena's fingers flew across the controls, pulling up more detailed analysis. "Whatever they are, they're heading toward populated space." Dr. Chen's face went pale as he studied the readings. Those energy signatures matched theoretical profiles for the Voidborn. The temperature in the cabin seemed to drop. The Voidborn were legends, ancient machine entities that had supposedly been destroyed in a war that predated even the oldest Council species. Stories said they were remnants of a civilization that had tried to merge organic life with pure energy and had created something that consumed both. Most species considered them myths. But humanity's archaeological expeditions to dead worlds throughout the galaxy had found evidence that the stories were true. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command," Marcus ordered. "Priority Alpha classification." The connection established within seconds, routed through quantum entanglement communication that traveled instantaneously across any distance. General Sarah Park appeared in the hologram, her expression already grim. "We're tracking them too," she said without preamble. 17 distinct signatures, each one putting out energy equivalent to a small star. They just entered the Talaxian system. "What's the Council's response?" Helena asked. "They haven't detected them yet. Their sensors don't have the range or sensitivity. They won't know anything's wrong until the Talaxians stop responding to communications." General Park's jaw tightened. "And by then it will be too late." Marcus felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. If humanity revealed their surveillance capabilities, it would expose part of their secret infrastructure. But if they remained silent, an entire species would die. "How long until the Voidborn reach Talaxia Prime?" he asked. 42 hours at their current velocity. "And how long until the Council realizes something is wrong?" "Best estimate? 3 to 4 days. By then, the entire Talaxian civilization will be gone." The three officers shared a look of understanding. They had anticipated this moment for decades. The galaxy would face a crisis that the Council couldn't handle alone, and humanity would have to decide whether to remain hidden or reveal themselves. Activate Protocol Revelation, Marcus said quietly. Contact the Leviathan's command crew. Tell them to prepare for immediate deployment. General Park nodded. And the Council? Let them discover the Voidborn on their own. They need to understand the threat before we show them the solution. Fear first, then hope. That's how you change a galaxy's perception. 18 hours later, the first reports reached the Galactic Unity Assembly. The Talaxian frontier worlds had gone silent. All 12 colonies, home to nearly 3 billion beings, simply stopped transmitting. Emergency response teams were dispatched, but when they arrived at the border systems, they found only silence and empty space. The planets were still there, orbiting their stars as they always had. But every trace of life had been stripped away. No cities, no infrastructure, no bodies. Just barren rocks that showed signs of having been scoured by weapons that operated on principles the Council didn't understand. And then the advanced scouts detected the Voidborn fleet moving deeper into Council space. The emergency session of the Galactic Unity Assembly was the most chaotic in recorded history. Representatives screamed at each other in hundreds of languages. Ancient enemies blamed each other for the attack. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. Only Ambassador Theron Vass managed to restore something resembling order. We face an unknown enemy with capabilities that exceed our understanding, he announced, his voice cutting through the chaos. All personal disputes must be set aside. Every species must contribute their full military strength to defend our shared civilization. The vote was unanimous. The Council fleet would mobilize immediately. But privately, in the secure chambers where military leaders met, the mood was far less confident. Admiral Kresh of the Combined Defense Force pulled up tactical projections that showed the Voidborn's projected path through Council space. At their current rate of advance, they'll reach the core worlds in 90 days, he reported. Our models suggest we'll need at least 15,000 ships to have any chance of stopping them. Currently, we have 8,000 vessels that can be mobilized within that time frame. Then we gather more ships, said Representative Theron. Call upon every species, even the minor colonies. This is an extinction-level threat. That includes Earth, someone pointed out. The chamber fell silent. Earth's military was considered laughable by Council standards. But in a crisis of this magnitude, even primitive ships might serve as useful cannon fodder. Very well, Theron said after a moment's consideration. Send a request to the human delegation. Ask them to contribute whatever forces they can muster. Every ship counts now. The message reached Marcus Webb within the hour. He read it carefully, noting the condescending language that still managed to creep in despite the crisis. Requested to contribute your available defensive vessels to the common cause. He forwarded the message to Admiral Cross and Dr. Chen with a single word attached. Finally. The time for deception was ending. Soon, the galaxy would learn what humanity had been building in the shadows for 2.5 centuries. Soon they would see the Leviathan. And nothing would ever be the same again. Marcus stood at the observation window of Earth's hidden command station, watching construction crews make the final preparations. The massive Supercarrier was almost ready. Its weapons were charged. Its fighters were loaded. Its crew of 10,000 was trained to perfection. He thought about the decades of mockery humanity had endured. The countless rejections. The casual contempt from species who considered themselves superior. It had all been part of the plan, but that didn't make it easier to bear. Now the galaxy faced a threat it couldn't handle alone. And humanity would step forward not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as the hidden guardians who had been preparing for this moment all along. Send a response to the Council, Marcus said quietly. Tell them Earth accepts their request for assistance. We will contribute our forces to the defensive effort. He paused, allowing himself a small smile. And inform them that we will provide a demonstration of our capabilities at coordinates Sector 447 in 72 hours. Suggest they bring their best sensor equipment and plenty of recording devices. They'll want to know what we're demonstrating, Admiral Cross noted. Let them wonder, Marcus replied. The reveal will be worth the wait. In the darkness of space, ancient machines moved toward the light of civilization with hunger that had slept for millennia. The Voidborn had awakened, and they remembered the taste of living worlds. But they were about to discover that the galaxy had changed in their absence. And humanity was ready. The revelation. Sector 447 was an empty region of space, far from any inhabited system but close enough to Council territory that the journey wouldn't take long. It was the perfect location for what humanity had planned, a demonstration that would rewrite galactic history. The Council's observation fleet arrived exactly on schedule, 72 hours after Marcus Webb's cryptic message. 150 ships from 40 different species formed a loose formation, their sensor arrays active and recording everything. They expected to see Earth's pathetic fleet, perhaps a few dozen outdated vessels that might serve as minor support craft in the coming war. What they found was empty space. Ambassador Theron Vass stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Pride of Corellia, staring at the tactical displays with growing irritation. His scales had shifted to a dark amber color that indicated displeasure. "Where are they?" he demanded. The human specified these exact coordinates. His tactical officer, a younger Corellian named Vex, worked frantically at his console. "Sensors show nothing, Ambassador. No ships, no energy signatures, no anomalies of any kind. The sector is completely empty." "Perhaps this is another example of human incompetence," suggested the communications officer. "They may have miscalculated the coordinates." Theron's eyes narrowed. Something felt wrong. He had dealt with humans for decades, and while he considered them primitive, they were rarely incompetent. Marcus Webb especially had always been precise in his communications. "Expand the sensor range," Theron commanded. "Scan the entire region. And contact the other observation ships. Has anyone detected anything unusual?" Reports came back negative from all vessels. The Membrane Consortium's ships detected nothing. The Crystalline Federation's advanced sensors showed only background radiation. Even the Vorten Empire's military-grade scanning equipment found no trace of human presence. That's when Director Marcus Webb's voice came through on all frequencies simultaneously. "Greetings, honored representatives of the Galactic Unity Assembly. Thank you for accepting our invitation." Theron spun toward his communication station. "Where is that transmission originating?" "Unknown, sir. The signal appears to be coming from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Our systems can't triangulate the source." Marcus's voice continued, calm and measured. "For 250 years, humanity has observed the galaxy and learned its rules. We understood that revealing our true capabilities would make us targets. So we chose a different path. We became what you expected us to be, weak, primitive, harmless." A chill ran through Theron's body. Something in Marcus's tone had changed. The humility was gone, replaced by something that sounded almost like pride. "Today that deception ends. What you are about to witness represents a fraction of humanity's actual military capability. We share this with you not to threaten but to offer hope. The Void-born threaten all life in this galaxy. Against such an enemy, old games of power and dominance are meaningless. It is time for honesty." "What is he talking about?" Vex whispered. Theron didn't answer. He was staring at the main view screen, where something impossible was beginning to happen. Reality itself seemed to ripple at the center of the empty sector. The fabric of space twisted and folded, creating distortions that made the observation fleet sensors scream with alerts. Energy readings spiked to levels that exceeded the output of entire star systems. And then, emerging from a dimensional fold that shouldn't have been possible, the Leviathan revealed itself. The Supercarrier materialized like a Leviathan rising from the depths of an ancient ocean. 78 kilometers of impossible engineering hung in space, dwarfing everything around it. The observation fleet's largest vessel, the Pride of Corellia, was 3 kilometers long. The Leviathan was 26 times larger. Its hull gleamed with a metallic sheen that shifted colors in the starlight, flowing between silver, blue, and deep purple like liquid metal given form. Thousands of weapons ports dotted its surface, each one housing technology that Council sensors couldn't identify. Massive engine arrays at its stern pulsed with contained power that bent light around them. The bridge of the Pride of Corellia fell into absolute silence. Theron's 6 eyes widened in disbelief as his mind tried to process what he was seeing. Around him, his crew sat frozen at their stations, mouths hanging open, unable to form words. "That's impossible," Vex finally whispered. "A ship that size shouldn't be able to maintain structural integrity. The gravitational stresses alone would tear it apart." But the Leviathan wasn't tearing apart. It hung in space with perfect stability, its presence rewriting everything the Council thought they knew about ship design and engineering. Across the observation fleet, similar scenes played out on 150 bridges. Scientists stared at readings that contradicted their entire understanding of physics. Military officers watched tactical displays that showed weapon systems operating on principles they couldn't comprehend. Diplomats struggled to find words to describe what they were witnessing. Admiral Helena Cross's voice joined Marcus Webb's on the open channel. She spoke from the Leviathan's bridge, her tone professional and precise. "This is Admiral Helena Cross of the Earth vessel Leviathan. I will now demonstrate our defensive capabilities." The supercarrier's hull shimmered, and suddenly layers of energy shields bloomed into existence around it. But these weren't the standard deflector shields that the Council used. These shields existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, creating a defensive barrier that occupied several planes of reality at once. Dr. Samuel Chen's voice provided commentary. "What you're observing is quantum phase shielding. The barriers exist partially in normal space and partially in quantum dimensions. Any projectile or energy beam attempting to penetrate them must simultaneously exist in 6 different dimensional states. Since such existence is physically impossible for conventional weapons, the shields are effectively impenetrable." Theron found his voice, though it came out as a hoarse croak. This technology is impossible?" Marcus Webb's voice carried a hint of amusement. "That's what the Council declared 3 centuries ago when human scientists proposed the theoretical foundations. You dismissed our research as the fantasies of primitives. So we stopped sharing our theories and continued the research in private." The Leviathan's weapons systems powered up next. Along its massive hull, thousands of ports began to glow with different colors, blue, green, violet, and shades that existed at the edge of visible spectrum. "Our primary weapons are graviton beam arrays," Admiral Cross explained. "They manipulate spacetime itself within a 5 million kilometer radius. Any target caught in the beam experiences extreme time dilation. From your perspective, the target appears frozen while we operate normally." To demonstrate, the Leviathan fired a pale blue beam at an unmanned probe that had been deployed as a test target. The moment the beam touched the probe, it seemed to freeze in space, though its internal clocks showed time passing normally from its own perspective. The probe experienced 1 second for every hour that passed in normal space. Secondary weapons include quantum phase cannons that fire projectiles existing in multiple dimensions, Dr. Chen continued. Plasma lance arrays that operate at temperatures exceeding stellar cores. And gravitic mines that create localized black holes lasting precisely 2.3 seconds before evaporating. The tactical displays across the observation fleet were going haywire. Weapon systems that powerful should require energy sources the size of planets. Yet the Leviathan was generating all that power from something its hull that Council sensors couldn't even properly detect. "Impossible," Theron repeated, but the word had lost all meaning. He was watching impossible things happen in real time. "Now for our fighter complement," Admiral Cross said. The Leviathan's launch bays opened, revealing cavernous spaces that stretched for kilometers. And from those bays came the fighters. 5,000 autonomous combat drones launched in perfect synchronization, forming geometric patterns that flowed like liquid through space. Each drone was small by capital ship standards, only 40 meters long, but their movements demonstrated capabilities that made Council pilots look like children playing with toys. The drones executed maneuvers that should have killed any organic pilot through sheer gravitational force. They shifted from normal space to quantum dimensions and back again in microseconds. They formed network patterns where each drone's tactical awareness was shared instantaneously with all the others. "Our fighter command system uses direct neural interface," Dr. Chen explained. "Human pilots control entire squadrons through quantum-entangled brain implants. Response times are measured in microseconds. The system anticipates threats before they fully materialize." The drones performed an aerial ballet that was simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. They wove through space in patterns that seemed choreographed by some intelligence beyond organic comprehension. And through it all, they maintained perfect formation, perfect timing, perfect coordination. Representative Velshaw of the Membrane Consortium watched from her observation ship, her translucent body pulsing with colors that indicated complete cognitive dissonance. "This changes everything," she whispered. "The entire power structure of the galaxy just shifted." She was right and everyone watching knew it. But the demonstration wasn't finished. "We're detecting incoming signatures," Theron's tactical officer suddenly announced, his voice sharp with alarm. "Multiple contacts bearing 375 Mark 19. Energy signatures match. They match the Voidborn." The observation fleet erupted into chaos. Ships began powering weapons and shields, preparing to flee. An advance force of Voidborn had somehow detected the gathering and was moving to attack. Theron's tactical display showed 12 massive contacts, each one putting out energy readings comparable to a small star. They were void-born motherships, the same type of vessel that had scoured the Talaxian worlds clean of all life. All ships retreat to safe distance. Theron commanded. We cannot face those things. But Admiral Cross's voice cut through the panic with unnatural calm. Observation fleet, maintain position. This is an excellent opportunity to demonstrate our combat capabilities against the actual enemy. Are you insane? Theron shouted. Those are void-born motherships. Each one can destroy an entire battle fleet. Then you should watch carefully, Helena replied. You're about to see how humanity fights. The Leviathan rotated in space with impossible grace for something so massive, bringing its weapons arrays to bear on the incoming void-born fleet. The 5,000 fighters repositioned instantly, forming defensive screens and attack formations simultaneously. The void-born motherships were nightmarish things to behold. They resembled massive organic structures built from machinery, all twisted metal and pulsing energy conduits. They had no clear front or back, just masses of technology that defied conventional design. They radiated malevolence and hunger. They opened fire first, unleashing waves of energy that had torn through council shields like paper during previous engagements. The destructive beams crossed millions of kilometers in seconds, striking the Leviathan's quantum phase shields. And simply stopped. The energy dissipated harmlessly across multiple dimensions, unable to breach barriers that existed in realities the Voidborn couldn't reach. The motherships fired again, putting out enough energy to vaporize a moon. The shields didn't even flicker. Now, Admiral Cross said quietly. Open fire. The Leviathan's weapons arrays lit up like a newborn star. Graviton beams lanced out, catching 4 void-born motherships in fields of distorted spacetime. From the observation fleet's perspective, the motherships simply froze in place, though they were actually experiencing time at a drastically reduced rate. The quantum phase cannons fired next, launching projectiles that existed simultaneously in 6 dimensions. The Voidborn's armor, which had shrugged off every weapon in the Council's arsenal, proved useless against attacks that bypassed normal space entirely. The projectiles passed through the hulls as if the ships weren't there, then detonated inside the mothership's core systems. Explosions bloomed in colors that hurt to look at directly, detonations that occurred partially in dimensions organic eyes couldn't perceive. 4 void-born motherships died in the span of 3 seconds. The remaining 8 motherships attempted to scatter, their artificial intelligences recognizing a threat beyond their combat parameters. But the Leviathan's fighter drones were already moving. 5,000 autonomous craft descended on the Voidborn like a swarm of metallic insects. They moved with perfect coordination, each drone knowing exactly where every other drone would be 3 seconds into the future. They fired weapons that operated on principles the Council had never seen. Phase disruptors that separated matter at the quantum level, gravitic warheads that created miniature black holes, and plasma lances that burned at temperatures exceeding the core of a star. The Void-born motherships fought back with everything they had. They unleashed energy weapons, projectile systems, and exotic attacks that the Council had no names for. They destroyed dozens of drones with each volley. But humanity had built 5,000 drones, and they fought with inhuman precision. For every drone destroyed, the others adapted instantly, learning from their fallen comrades' destruction and adjusting their tactics in real time. The neural network that connected them turned 5,000 individual craft into a single distributed intelligence that thought faster than any organic mind could follow. One by one, the Void-born motherships fell. Their hulls were breached, their systems overloaded, their ancient technology overwhelmed by human ingenuity and relentless coordinated assault. The entire battle lasted 14 minutes. When it was over, 12 Void-born motherships floated dead in space, their hulls torn open and their energy cores dark. The Leviathan hung untouched in the center of the battlefield, its shield still at full strength. Of the 5,000 drones, 4,736 remained operational. The observation fleet sat in stunned silence, unable to process what they had just witnessed. The Voidborn were supposed to be unstoppable. Ancient records spoke of them as forces of nature that consumed everything in their path. The Council had been preparing for a war of desperate survival against an enemy they couldn't defeat. And humanity had just destroyed an entire Voidborn advance fleet in 14 minutes. Ambassador Theron Vass stared at his tactical displays, his 6 eyes unblinking, his scales completely pale with shock. Around him, his bridge crew sat frozen at their stations. No one spoke. No one moved. Finally, Marcus Webb's voice broke the silence. The Leviathan is one of 7 supercarriers that humanity has constructed over the past 250 years. Our total military fleet includes 4,200 combat vessels of various classes, all incorporating similar technology. We have 147 hidden colonies supporting our infrastructure, and a population of approximately 68 billion across all our settlements. The numbers were staggering. The Council had believed Earth's population was barely 4 billion, confined to a single star system. The truth was more than 15 times larger. We share this information now because the Voidborn threaten all life in the galaxy, Marcus continued. This is not a time for deception or politics. This is a time for unity against a common enemy. Humanity offers its full military capability in alliance with the Galactic Unity Assembly to eliminate the Voidborn threat permanently. He paused, letting his words sink in across 150 ships. However, our alliance comes with conditions. First, Earth demands full voting membership on the Council with all rights and privileges that entails. Second, all technological restrictions previously placed on emerging species will be reviewed and reformed. Third, the Council will acknowledge that humanity is not a minor power to be dismissed, but an equal partner in galactic affairs. Theron's communications officer looked at him questioningly, waiting for instructions on how to respond. But Theron had no words. What could he say? The entire foundation of galactic power had just been rewritten. You have deceived us for centuries, he finally managed to say, his voice hoarse. You made fools of us while secretly building an empire in the shadows. Yes, Marcus agreed without hesitation or apology. We did exactly that. Because the alternative was to reveal our strength too early and be destroyed by species who feared our potential. We learned from history, Ambassador. We learned from the dozens of civilizations that grew too powerful too quickly and disappeared from galactic records. We chose survival over pride. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried steel beneath the diplomacy. The Council created an environment where deception was the only rational strategy for emerging species. You maintained your power by keeping others weak. You may find our methods distasteful, but they were born from your own policies. If you want a galaxy built on honesty and cooperation, then those policies must change. Representative Velshaw of the Membrane Consortium transmitted from her observation ship. Her voice carried none of the mockery that humans had endured for decades. Now she spoke with respect. You have proven your strength beyond all doubt, she said. But strength alone does not guarantee wisdom. What assurance do we have that humanity will not use this power to dominate others as you claim the Council has done? It was Admiral Helena Cross who answered, her voice firm but not aggressive. Because we've already had that power for 2.5 centuries, and we chose not to use it for conquest. We could have revealed ourselves at any time and demanded whatever we wanted through force. Instead we waited. We prepared. We positioned ourselves to be guardians rather than conquerors. She paused, and the observation fleet could see the Leviathan's massive form rotating slightly on their view screens, a gentle reminder of the power behind her words. Humanity seeks partnership, not dominance. We want a galaxy where species are judged by their contributions, not their age or their willingness to submit to established powers. We want a council that actually serves all its members, not just the strongest few. Dr. Samuel Chen added his own perspective. The Voidborn represent an existential threat that no single species can defeat alone. Our projections indicate that even with the Leviathan and our full fleet, humanity cannot eliminate the Voidborn without support from Council forces. This must be a united effort. The observation fleet began transmitting reports back to their home governments, and within hours the entire galaxy knew that everything had changed. Emergency sessions were called on 1,000 worlds. Ancient protocols were activated. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found themselves forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew about galactic politics. And through it all, one question echoed across civilized space. What else was humanity hiding? Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, watching the observation fleet through the massive viewscreens. He had spent 30 years of his life maintaining the deception, smiling through mockery, accepting rejection with false humility. Now that deception was ending, and he felt both relief and apprehension about what would come next. The Council will accept our terms, Admiral Cross said confidently. They have no choice. We're the only force that can stop the Voidborn. Perhaps, Marcus replied. But acceptance born from desperation is not the same as true alliance. We'll need to prove ourselves as partners, not just as weapons. Dr. Chen pulled up projections showing the Voidborn's continued advance through Council space. More worlds had gone silent in the past week. The ancient enemy was accelerating its assault, as if sensing that the galaxy was finally organizing effective resistance. "We have work to do," Marcus said quietly. "The demonstration was successful, but the real war is just beginning." As if in response to his words, new alerts began appearing on the tactical displays. Deep space sensors detected hundreds of new void-borne signatures emerging from the galactic rim. Not just motherships but entire fleets of smaller vessels, scout ships, and things that defied classification. The ancient enemy had been holding back, testing defenses with just a fraction of their forces. Now, seeing that the galaxy possessed weapons that could actually harm them, they were committing their full strength. The war humanity had prepared for was finally here. And as the Leviathan's crew moved to battle stations, as 4,000 human ships throughout the galaxy received deployment orders, as the Council scrambled to mobilize its own forces, one truth became clear to everyone watching. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had revealed its hidden strength at exactly the right moment. But whether that strength would be enough to save civilization from the Voidborn remained to be seen. The awakening had occurred. The deception had ended. And now, in the darkness between stars, the real battle for survival would begin. Marcus Webb looked out at the infinite void, at the distant stars where human colonies thrived in secret, at the approaching threat that sought to consume all life, and he made a silent promise to the billions who depended on humanity's hidden guardians. "We were patient for 250 years. We prepared while others mocked us. We hid our strength while building the greatest fleet this galaxy has ever seen. Now it's time to show them what humanity can do when we stop pretending to be weak." The Leviathan's engines flared to life, and the Supercarrier turned toward the distant threat. Behind it, the observation fleet watched in awe and terror and hope. The silent guardians had finally stepped into the light. And the galaxy would never forget it.